What is going on, everyone? Welcome back, and if you're new, welcome to the Lazy Ass Samurai YouTube channel. And today we are getting into my third Lazy Ass review of this month, which is going to be Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Now, I know this movie isn't necessarily new or recent, but the 10th anniversary did just happen, which means it was re-released in video or in theaters for Dolby Cinema, which I just couldn't miss the opportunity because I love Scott Pilgrim. So I guess I can start with just a little bit of background information. Once upon a time, before Netflix was like all about streaming, they were also, I don't know, maybe they still do, but you could order DVDs from Netflix. Like they would mail DVDs to your house. You could watch them as many times as you want, send them back, order more. And it was cool. And that's how I came across Scott Pilgrim, because it was recommended to me through the service, and then I watched the trailer and I was like, okay, this seems kind of cool. I mean, I'm not really big on like romance stories, but Scott Pilgrim is my favorite romance story of all time. You can't just Scott's down bad. Scott's a terrible person, but you can't help but love him. And it wasn't until last Christmas when my girlfriend went and got me the collected editions, like the colored complete set of the Scott Pilgrim comics, that I was able to really get into Scott Pilgrim. And then, because prior to then, I only could see the movie because the video game was delisted from digital storefronts like PS3 and Xbox 360 by the time I actually wanted to play it. But lo and behold, if you're unaware, they re-released the video game on digital storefronts, and I was able to play it. And it is a fun beat 'em up, but gosh darn it, it's hard to play by myself, so I've actually never beaten it, and I probably never will until someone wants to help me out. So Scott Pilgrim, what do I think of it? I'll just go through things I like, things I don't like, spoilers if it's really applicable to any movies when I give reviews like this, and then of course my number ranking. Things I like, everything. The movie does such a great job, because I saw the movie first before I read the comics, before I got into anything else. I didn't even know it was based off of a comic. But it's so good. It is so good. The comic book inspired elements, the video game inspired elements, the comedy, the editing. Edgar Wright had done a great job. The music is great. I mean, if I were to rate the theater experience alone for that enhanced Dolby Cinema version of this movie, I would for sure I'd for sure give it a solid 10, because sitting in that theater next to my girlfriend, I had to keep looking at her. I was like, are you feeling what I'm feeling? Because the sound was so crazy. Like, every hit really vibrated throughout the theater. You felt it in your seats. It was amazing. The music, amazing. And I would know, because I listened to the soundtrack while driving down the hill to the movies. It was like an hour drive, and I put that soundtrack on, and I was just vibing. Because it's just really, really good. And it's just so funny, because you don't realize how many actors and like famous actors and actresses are in this movie. You have Anna Kendrick, of course. You have Michael Cera. You have Chris Evans. Mr. Captain America is actually the second evil X that Scott Pilgrim has to fight. And then you have so many others. You even have Aubrey Plaza, and not to mention Brie Larson. Yes, Captain Marvel is Scott's girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, and the Addams. It's crazy. So if you're unfamiliar with the story, it follows Scott Pilgrim as he's 22. He's dating a high schooler named Knives Chow, this sweet young lady here. And then eventually we find out that Scott's kind of in a hard, tough point in his life, and that's when he meets Ramona Flowers, this awesome girl right here. And the whole movie is, it's really bad because Scott cheats on Knives with Ramona and then breaks up with Knives right after she says she's in love with him. Again, Scott Pilgrim is a terrible... This movie also helped me realize, because I haven't seen it in so long, but Scott Pilgrim is a bad guy. He's a bad dude, but I don't know why he's so lovable. And you want to see him win. So basically, to be with Ramona, Scott has to fight through this league of 7 evil exes, right? Not ex-boyfriends, but exes. So throughout the film, we see him fighting all these exes. From Matthew Patel as the first ex, all the way to Gideon Graves, who is the very last ex. And it's a good movie. It's a really solid movie. I feel like it adapts the source material in a way that is so well. But that's the thing. That's what I love about this movie. You know, when you have things adapted from comic books like film, and you can point out like, oh, it didn't happen that way, or oh, it should have happened another way, or wow, they really left this out. This movie, mind you, I saw it first, and then I read the comics. Mind you, this movie gets away with a lot in terms of what it lacks. Like its runtime is almost a good 2 hours, and they do a really good job at fitting a lot of story beats into it. Cause like, look, when these are the collected, like I think there was a good amount of issues. When this is the source material that you have to work with in such a small allotted amount of time, I say this is one of the best examples of doing so, because I have not heard a single person say a bad thing about how the comics were adapted into the film. Like, as it stands as a film, it's a solid film. The aesthetic is there. It knows what it wants to be, and it does that very well. The editing is great, and then as an adaptation, it does just as well. Because like I said, with the editing, for example, in the book, like it's pretty jarring. It's not jarring, but it's just classic comic book where you're in one scene and then suddenly you're in another, right? Yeah, you're in one scene and then you're in another, like in a comic panel. And the movie does that so well. It does the sound effects, it does everything so well. And it's crazy because after reading the comics, I felt like it was like a companion to the movie, right? I feel like it wasn't just two things kind of contradicting or like intersecting with each other, but it just like came together so well, for me at least. Where I was like, I read through the comics and I love them, but I still can go back and watch the film with the same amount of love, you know? Because I mean, the movie gets away with literally leaving out an entire character. Where is she? I think her name's Lucy, something like that. It's been a while, okay? It's May. But she is completely excluded from the film, and she's a pretty prominent character as it stands in the books. So I think it's really cool that they managed to literally make the movie work without certain inclusions or without certain caveats to it, you know? Like, you can watch a movie and feel like something's missing. You don't feel that way with Scott Pilgrim. It has a successful and a very satisfying climax, ending, resolution, everything you can want from a story. And it's just done well. And the actors do a great job. It's super goofy. It never takes itself too seriously, but then it does in a way where you're like, this is just normal to everyone. Everything that's going on is normal. And yeah, it's just a really great movie that, to me, still holds up to this day. And I think Edgar Wright did an amazing job. And for spoiler to... I mean, it's funny because the only thing is, like, in the books, when he fights the Katyanagi twins, they're some of the evil exes. In the book, they build robots to fight him. And this just kind of happens throughout, I think, the second volume. I think it's the second volume where it just kind of goes through and... Or maybe it's the third volume, actually. It's the third volume where he just fights these robots the whole time. But in the movie, it's like an Amp versus Amp, like, Battle of the Bands type deal, which is just as cool. So I love how they can take that and turn it into something different. Anyways, I can talk about this movie and gush about the comics all day. I might even do a video strictly about the comics and what I liked about them. I might even touch on differences between the film and the comics. But as it stands, Scott Pilgrim, in my eyes, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is a 10 out of 10. Solid movie, great movie. I'd highly recommend it. Single, not single, with someone, by yourself. I'd say watch it because it's just a hell of a good time. But with that, thanks so much for tuning in. Not sure what movie I'm going to review next, but I'm sure to figure that out and probably post it up on my Twitter. And speaking of, while you're here, I mean, you should probably, you can like and subscribe, and while you're at it, maybe follow me on Instagram or Twitter. That'd be cool. But as usual, thanks for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay lazy. I'll catch you guys next time.